we are here together, and I am excited to introduce you to Melissa. She's one of the selected business spotlights for today because of her excellence, and I really wanted to share what she does. It's very um, out of the box and what we really need nowadays. She is a realtor, a real estate planner, and what I find really intriguing is that she has a concierge service that provides services, especially for those that are selling their home or in transition. But I'll let her share that. So take it away.
Oh my goodness, you're so kind. Um, yes, my name is Melissa. I am a realtor with Keller Williams here in town, and my business really is focused on supporting seniors and their families and really making sure that the senior loved one is supported as they transition into that next phase of life. And it really started when my family and I were working together on doing that for the seniors in our family. And we found ourselves asking each other these questions that we didn't even know existed. And it was just this whole world opened up to us. And I saw firsthand how unsupported um, a lot of our seniors truly are. And so I wanted to build a purposeful business around real estate, and what that entails is making sure that as I meet with seniors and their families, that we're really ultimately working on building, protecting, and transferring their generational wealth through their real estate. And that's where my planning certification comes in. And anyway, that's the long answer to your question.
Yeah, well, I was really it when okay, so Gino and I went because we always check out the open houses here in Santa Barbara, and it was very close to our home here in
That's
Bel
right.
Air.
Yeah. Yep.
And so, yeah, so we're just talking. I was just so impressed with it. And personally, we're kind of faced with this new season where our parents are, older, and you start making these decisions of relocation. But the situation that Melissa shared with that particular house
Yeah.
was that the owner had to go to a extended, what do you call it, assisted living, and then the children were out of state. So,
Yeah. So essentially the trustees were out of area, and they got the call that their senior loved one couldn't go home. And they had a week to find memory care for her to move into. And so they called me and said, "We're not even in California. What are we supposed to do?" And that's where my concierge service kicked in. And I said, "Well, first of all, when it comes to downsizing, many people fall into the trap that they need to get a moving company in there right away. And that's not the case. You need to hire a senior move manager.
mhm.
And a senior move manager is going to be somebody who's a member of the National Association of Senior Move Managers, herein referred to as NASM. And you're going to hire them, and you're going to get out of their way. And they are going to hire the moving company, and they are going to spearhead the movement of getting that senior loved one into memory care, which we got her into memory care. And then from there, that was just the first part of the equation. The second and third and fourth, and kind of went down from there. All the other parts were, well, what do we do with the house? And so those conversations were, well, do we rent it out? Does it make sense to rent it out? Does it make sense to sell it? And if we do sell it, then, what are we looking at in terms of capital gains taxes? This is all part of my certified real estate planning certification. And that's where we have those conversations. And typically with the power team of four, I always say the affluent American family has a family attorney, a family CPA, family financial planner who's managing the family real estate. And so that's where we really made sure with the attorney and with the other people involved that we came up with a solid plan for the home with respect to the beneficiaries of the trust, and really put together that solid plan of what is in everybody's best interest. And so we came up with that plan, and and so that's where my team, my real estate team came in, and we cleaned up the home. We didn't do any renovations. Sometimes if that's necessary, we will go down that path, but for this case, we determined that renovations were not going to be necessary for a lot of reasons, but we cleaned up, and we cleaned up really well. And we put the home on the market, and within days it was sold.
Yeah, we
It's,
noticed. Yeah,
yes, we
big
did. We're
sold
there.
sign. Yeah. But what I think is beautiful and I really appreciate is the, coordination of it. You're really a project manager of all these
Mhm.
facets, and then, yeah, I'm sure that through your experience, you've connected with trustworthy sources to bring together for these people that don't, it's a really emotional time for the families, and time is not on your side, and there's all these legalities, and it's overwhelm, and and thank goodness there's people like you that see that need and have put something like this together.
Yeah, and that's what a lot of this entailed, was a lot of project management, a lot of time management, a lot of vendor coordination, and there were a lot of moving parts, but I have to the family for the way that they supported their senior loved one. I mean, they were on it, and anytime there was an update from the lawyers, I mean, or the attorneys, we were all communicating, and when there were updates from the financial planner, and when there were updates regarding anything, I mean, we all came together and we communicated very well with one another. So that doesn't always happen. A lot of times
Yeah.
there's, friction, but I thank God, thanks to all the gods that there
Yeah.
wasn't that. And we were able to really just work together to make sure that we got highest and best. And that's exactly what happened.
No, beautiful, because it's and then also, you mentioned in, I let's see what I see about, your legacies, that,
Mhm,
the transitions of life and
mhm,
preserving those legacies and,
mhm.
um, yeah, and that's something that I really appreciate and yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I just had this conversation too, just the other day with a family about, they specifically booked a consultation with me to talk about their legacy. And I said, well, I'm not an attorney. I'm not an estate planning attorney. I know many of them in town and they do a great job. And I'm not a financial planner and I'm not a CPA, but real estate is where my bread and butter is. And I do have a lot of strategies that I've helped people to put together. But, I stay in my lane. But the questions that they had around legacy were not so much involving the nuances of their trust situation, but rather they came to me saying, "Well, we're nearing the first part of our retirement journey, and we have a lot of equity that we're sitting on, and we don't know really how to expand this or build on this." So that's where we put on a couple of different hats, and we start going down the what if this rabbit hole, and just having those dialogues, and the outcome of that meeting was quite substantial, in that I said, you're sitting on probably $2 million worth of equity. Eh, what what sorts of things do you want to do with that? If you can make more money, would you? If you can build out your retirement, would you? What does that look like? I mean, Do you have the income that you need to sustain the life that you desire? And that's where we start exploring different strategies of how do we take this equity and we answer those questions. And so I said, I gave out some suggestions of, well, let's look at acquiring more property. Let's maybe look at using the equity to build out, rental properties, and not just here in California, but they had another property out of state. And so that, money can go a lot farther and out of state. And so that's where we really started getting strategic about what does that look like for you guys and how do we achieve those goals? And it's all just real estate strategy. And that's where I have found my purpose in real estate.
That's beautiful. And that's why we're calling in all the experts in every area. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's why I call it the power team of four.
of course. Yes, team playing. In fact, our next
And
guest is
some of the other
Gordon.
questions that I ask people are, especially when they reach a certain age, they say, "Well, this is it. We're here. We made it." And I say, "Well, if you could bless your kids while you're still alive, would you?" And a lot of times that answer is yes. And that's where we again go down the strategy rabbit hole, and that's why it pays. It pays dividends
Mhm.
for having a concrete plan in place with that power team of four to support the legacy, not just in the now, but in the future and beyond.
Yes, yes, yes. So, that's the financial legacy. And also, once that is stabilized and secure, then they can start thinking of the other types. So like um, capture the stories of
Hmm.
our families to
Absolutely.
preserve those legacies.
Yep.
And communication is key. So we actually have a specialist who, Gordon's our next guest, and he's, specializes in, the communication and how that is so key
Yes.
in family dynamics and
Yes.
sales. And I'm
Yep.
sure, especially in real estate, you run into all kinds of personalities and a different approach for different, folks.
Absolutely. And that's why I do the seminars that I do. I do seminars every month here in Santa Barbara just on things that people need to know. Some of our most talked about topics are the 21 responsibilities trustees have. I like to really get into demystifying wills, trusts, and probate, talk about local senior living options. We just did a panel interview last week that really dispelled a lot of myths about senior living. And a lot of people came and they had a lot of really good questions around the nature of financial planning for senior living options, but also very specific nuanced questions to what does senior living look like, not just in Santa Barbara, but kind of everywhere. And it was a really powerful conversation to have. You can see that people were really accepting of the information and they wanted to know more. And so it's nice to be able to have a business where you've built it around so much purpose. And then when it comes to transacting the real estate, it happens when it's ready,
Hmm,
when it's time.
beautiful. So when did you form the concierge entity?
Gosh, it's been a little bit. Probably within this year, I just saw that there was a need for it because the conversations that I was having with people, I just noticed people were immediately jumping to, well, we have a senior loved one and we're prepared to just get that moving company in right now. And that's when I said, but wait a
Mm,
minute, that's not a senior move manager and you're going to be doing a lot of work if you go that route. And so that's when it was within this year actually, and it was very recent, and it was very necessary, and it really cleared up a lot of questions that people had around the entire process. So,
mm.
um, yeah,
Well, it's one of those things that people don't think about
no,
until they have
you're in
to.
it. You're in it, and then when you're in it, then you figure everything out. But then
Yeah.
when do you use it again?
Right.
So
Yeah.
that's where I make it a point to be intentional about here's here's a lot of the information you do need to know. Here are the resources for these types
Mhm.
of concepts, and reach out. You know how to find me with your questions about this, that, and everything else.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's where, I enjoy helping people connect with,
Hmm.
specialists and yeah, like you, solution providers, because you do provide these solutions that people need, and, it's critical times where that's where there are a lot of, scammers that come in. When
Yes.
they know people are desperate or, they're off guard, they're vulnerable,
Yes.
and that's why people like you and the services that you provide, and you've already have other seasoned professionals that can help in different areas as a team,
Yes.
because that is a key too.
Yes.
If someone claims to do everything, that's someone that you probably shouldn't listen to. 'Cause
No.
no one could do everything.
No. And in this last project that we did, the one where you and I met, I mean, I didn't touch a single box because that's not my job. I stay in my lane.
Mhm.
And when we brought in the senior move manager, they were the ones who ran point on the entire operation. And our job at that point is to just get out of their way and stay out of their way.
Uh-huh.
And thank God that that happened because they find things that a lot of people don't, or a lot of people miss. And they ended up finding boxes of very sensitive information, very personal information that were kind of tucked away in the attic. And then once we got all of the uh, inf you know, information out and in the open, and, we just categorized the piles, if you will, and so once we had everything in the sensitive pile, then it was, "Okay, let's get the shredder to come and shred everything on site, and we'll securely destroy the information once the trustees have given us the green light for
Mm.
that."
Mhm.
And so it's just little things like that that tend to come up that the senior move managers know how to handle.
Mhm.
And then when when other things come up, we find the resource for it, and we move forward. But on my end, it's a lot of coordination, and that's as a realtor, and as a person who's done sales her entire career, that's what I'm used to.
Mm.
And so really adding the downsizing concierge and this and the bringing in things as necessary, it just feels very, very authentic
Yeah.
to who I am, what I've done, and how to keep moving things forward.
Yeah. No, that's so essential.
Mhm.
Um, because otherwise you have all this piecemeal activities going on, and if family members aren't coordinating or communicating, it could be a real mess. I hear, some people still settling situations over years and years,
Mhm.
and then there's division in the families, and it's just a big mess. So,
Well, and one of the ways that we tend to, I don't wanna say avoid or prevent that because there's only so much you can do in one day, but some of the concepts that I like to present to families with the senior loved one in the room is the idea of, let's come up with a plan together, and let's really take a strategic look at what's in the trust, what type of real estate are we looking at, and, one of the questions I ask is, going back to, if you could bless your kids while you're still alive, would you? But another question I like to ask is, if your kids could predetermine their inheritance, would they? And we can actually go down that rabbit hole and look at different options, and we find in a lot of instances that people are able to do that. And you can when you look at situations where people are out of state, they're just in different phases of life. And then you think about how things are going to turn out. And people
Mhm.
have said, this couldn't have gone any better, and this is going to be the best thing for everybody because of, you know, things of things of that nature. But there are ways to do things. There are many, many different ways. Life is what you make of it. And I'm just the person who has the conversation around it, and I have the tools to do so.
Yep. And one of your mottos is, when, life happens and
Push
you
the
hit
easy
the
button.
easy button.
That's what my whole goal is, to just make things as easy as possible. When it comes to life, nothing in life is easy, but the concept of simplifying what what is happening, that's where my expertise comes in. That's where my resources come in. That's why I advocate that a power team of 4 needs to really be supporting each family, because
Mhm.
at least when you have those resources in place, it takes a little bit of weight off everybody's shoulders.
It makes a huge difference. Yeah. So, please share how people can reach you and your workshops are great. So, maybe share about that. I will be doing a post on Substack, and I'll include your
Mhm.
contact information on there. But if
Perfect.
for those that are listening right now or listening to the replay, please let them know how you can reach and how they can get started with a conversation with you.
Absolutely. So I do monthly seminars. We do lunch and learns, and the schedule is on my website. And I post it all over social media as well. So make sure that we're following each other on social media. I have a YouTube channel as well that I'm posting a lot of different topics, questions that I get, and I tend to answer them. And on my YouTube channel, I also have some recordings of my previous seminars and webinars on my YouTube channel. But touch base with me on my website as far as what my updated seminar schedule looks like and what those topics are, where and when, the like. And then from there we can continue the conversation and just see how we can support one another.
Sounds awesome. Well, thank you. And anyone else that's listening, you can reach me at memorable-connections.com. That's memorable-connections.com.
Wonderful.
And yes, so it's this is a day where I'm just highlighting those that are seasoned professionals that have gems that you might not know about that could actually make a whole change in your life
Yeah.
and make things easier. And we need to work together and find people we can trust. We the big craze you hear about is AI, and this is one way we can beat it by having live conversations, and no one
Yeah.
could fake that.
I love that.
Yes.
And thank you for your work on that front and just making sure that people are connected with the right people, because you just never know the impact one person can have on somebody's life. So thank you for
Yeah.
being mindful and helping people to make meaningful connections.
Well, thank you, and we'll be in touch. And everyone, look out for the post, and we'll have everyone's information on there. All right.
Wonderful. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Have a great day.
You too. Bye bye.